Hello, salty witches, our little saltines. Welcome back. It's Austin, Mike, and Mia, obviously, but mainly Mia because we love her so much. We're putting her up front and
Oh
center.
my God, this sun triangulation is making more sense. Okay.
So, so it's been a couple of weeks since our last episode, and we have some things that we're going to be going over. And so I want Mike to talk about where first.
Or you're not going to lead us through an
I'm
exercise?
going to lead us through an exercise, but it's going to connect to that, which is
So we
why
can get that context.
yes, because I want the glyph is how I'm gonna do the exercise.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, wait, so I'm going first?
Yes.
Oh, all the pressure. Okay.
Okay. So
Well, I know that recently you had shared on Threads a little bit about this weekly poll and
yeah.
how it's gonna affect this
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Do you want to start there?
Excuse me, I'm so sorry, y'all. I've got this cough. Those of you who've been with the podcast for a time will know that I always have a cough.
it's also, I mean, Kitties.
No, it's been like this all day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's the shifting season, I think. That's okay. Our saltines don't.
Shifting seasons.
What?
Shifting seasons.
What are you doing? Are you high?
No, I wish.
What is wrong with you? Anyway, I know it would probably be quicker to ask what isn't. Sorry, I'm very tired and I'm being a little punchy,
That's relatable.
but it absolutely is. And I was gonna use that as kind of a very awkward segue. Okay, so our glyph, our geomantic glyph is Puer. Okay, Puer, also known as the sword, and you can kind of see like dot dot two dots dot, right? But you can kind of see like a very primitive representation of a sword, right? Like a rising sword, right? I've drawn my sword, right? I'm going into battle, right? This is also identified as the boy because in some interpretations, it's also a primitive depiction of a phallus or a penis. So it has a very strong masculine energy, and it has a very strong depictions or alignments to the planet Mars. There's a very martial energy.
Mars.
Yes, it's the pouch of Douglas. We love Hannah.
Yes.
Anyway,
if you listen to and watch this, we love you.
I'm sure this is nowhere near what we do on this podcast. I don't think is anywhere near anything that Hannah would be interested in, but that would be cool. Anyway, where? Okay.
So it's means boy in Latin.
Boy.
And it's related to Mars.
Yes, Mars or the sword. Okay. And because of that association, if you're looking for a way to kind of maybe remember this glyph, if for someone who wants to study geomancy, I recommend actually just trying to remember this as the sword, because that symbol, the sword, really kind of does more accurately, I think, capture its energy, its alignments to Mars in particular, the associations that it has with war, conflict, struggle, these kinds of things, and it can be a challenging glyph to see. So I drew this glyph this week. And I wanted to talk about this a bit tonight because as a sign for where we're at right now, and I just want to say real quick, like Mars has been a big energy of late. Like in the last couple of episodes that we've done, with the information that you have brought astrologically, Mars has been kind of like this. Mars is like this X that just won't go away.
Well, and
It's lingering.
It's
lingering.
It's not even done yet.
Oh, I know. And again, and so
it did just enter on September 4th. It entered into Cancer.
But that's
from Gemini, and so Mars is not happy in Cancer.
Yeah.
And so just to give you,
like, it sounded like you were trying to give us hope.
Oh no,
no, because it's in fall. And so it's a tricky space for it to be right now. Anyway, this Mars kind of energy around this glyph though is difficult because right now, and I want to say really, this is primarily just an issue for the next week or so, fortunately. But those of you who have particular associations to Mars, particular alignments to Mars based upon your personal birth charts, you might feel this energy a bit longer. And what I really want to kind of say is to prepare yourselves kind of for some of this through, or I would say up until probably roughly around the 26th of September. For the next week, primarily, okay, what we're really seeing with a lot of this, and I'm going to kind of go into another system that I work with to kind of add some supporting details, is we're seeing again a lot of issue around just conflict and a lot of a sense of like wanting to progress, wanting to move forward, and then continuing to feel a sense of just not being able to really get there. You know, like you want the thing to happen, but you're not able to get there. You want the progress to happen, but you're not able to move forward. You know, and it's tricky this because that dynamic isn't something that's coming from an external source. That's all within. It's all within us. And so it's very much kind of taking us back to a moment I think we saw back in August where Mars was in kind of a little bit of a retrograde kind of an energy, or not a retrograde, excuse me, but where we saw, I think it was that Mars
So it was the
Uranus
conjunction. Yeah,
conjunct,
it was
right?
Mars Uranus conjunction.
Yeah. That's right. It was Mercury that was in retrograde at that
Yes.
point. But so that's frustrating. And to kind of support that, I also went in and did some planetary mapping. And within planetary systems of planetary magic, as you're mapping the movements of the planets and the way that they kind of dance around each other in their orbit within the geocentric solar system, or a geocentric view of our solar system. What we're seeing happening actually today is Mars, Mercury, and Earth, our planet, are all moving into a triangulation. There's this big celestial triangle that is forming with Mars, Mercury, and Earth. And when that happens, I won't go into all of the details of how these planets kind of talk to each other, because some planets in our solar system, even in astrological association, some planets are seen as malefic. They bring us a little more difficulty, a little more stricture, a little more, more of the maybe what we don't want, right? Some planets are seen as benefic, where they bring us a little more of what we associate with positive, right? But when we see Mars and Mercury kind of in this triangulation with Earth, what we see happening is we see Mars and Mercury kind of in opposition, or kind of bouncing against each other. And what happens then is you have these two planets kind of at odds, or these two planets now kind of fighting, right? So you have both of these planets still manifesting in the ways that they normally do, right? Yes, like boxing gloves, right?
And it's
Right.
the fight between drive, Mars, and
Exactly.
communication and structuring.
Exactly. So you still have Mercury trying to do the things that it would normally do for us, but a lot of those things are being dampened, or kind of given a little bit of a more militaristic, or kind of more of a conflicting kind of an energy, conflicted kind of energy by Mars. And you have some of those elements of Mars, which also can do positive things for us, right? But those things are being kind of I would say almost like diffused, or made less tangible in a sense by Mercury's more airy kind of energies, right? And so you've got this happening, and then you've got these planets that are then kind of in this sharp point in that triangle, like right at Earth. And so it's like we've got these celestial bodies that are like daggers, like right at Earth. And so we're feeling some very intense energies from these two planets right now. And it's not all bad. It's not all bad. But it does tend to heighten the way that we feel those energies in our lives, good and bad. Normally, the moon as a planetary influence is really good at buffering or harmonizing those kinds of energies as it kind of orbits Earth. It'll kind of move in its orbit. It'll move between Earth and other planets. But the moon is like, nah, I'm sitting this one out. Not getting involved. And so basically what's happening is the moon in its orbit is kind of curving kind of lower around the orbit of Earth. So she's like, no, this is between you and Mercury and Mars, not getting involved. So there isn't any real reprieve, and there's no influence in there through the moon to harmonize these very disparate kinds of energies.
I wonder if we could commingle both systems of astrology and say that because of what, the geocentric model that you're going off of, they're coinciding so well with totally different language and aspects in a regular westernized Hellenistic astrology. Would it be fair to say, since Mars is in Cancer, maybe the moon is secretly rooting for Mars?
I mean, that is possible. That is possible. And that's actually, it's interesting that you say that. No, it's actually interesting that you say that because no, it's interesting that you say that because that's going to connect me to one of the other things that I was going to mention about Mars, where it's at right now with this triangle kind of thing happening. Mars has, in one of its more positive influences, Mars actually has a lot to do with like creative drive for us, right? There's a very strong creative energy to Mars. And a lot of people don't realize that about Mars, but Mars, because of where it's working right now for the next week, perhaps longer again for some people, that creative drive, that urge to create, again, artists, musicians, those of you who are really, and not just, but really any kind of creativity right now, that's another one of those things that a lot of people are going to be trying to do. If you are caught up in any kind of creative process right now, you're going to be feeling stuck. Like you're going to be big time writer's block. You've hit a creative wall. Like you're just not making progress. Okay. What's happening, I think, because of that triangulation, but also perhaps because the moon is kind of like, this is not about me. You guys handle this, right? And because Mars is sitting in with that lunar kind of corresponding energy right now, is that creative drive is still with us, but it's manifesting in dream time.
I love that.
So you're not seeing a lot of progress with creative projects in the day-to-day life, but you could be seeing really intense dream activity right now. And so what I'm telling people right now over the next week or two is to pay particularly close attention to your dreams, to document your dreams. Now is a really good time to be journaling things, anything that would be a creative kind of, or have create connection to creative process. Because what that's going to do is when all of this stuff shifts and changes, when we see this triangulation kind of move and shift, fortunately, and these things usually shift pretty quickly with these particular planets anyway. And we see Mars eventually again kind of move out of that lunar connection, right? That lunar correspondence or positioning is all of that dream association, all of those dreams, like all of that's going to be like right there. And those are all going to be the things that are going to be like, boom, this is your next creative project. This is the next step. This is the next thing you need to do. Take this and run. And you're going to already have the thought, the idea. You're already going to be like, oh, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to paint the painting. I'm ready to write the book. I'm ready to sculpt the statue. I'm ready to God, who knows? I'm ready to go into the business. Like
use the sword for action.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of putting a positive spin on what in the moment might seem like kind of like a very stuck and complicated, difficult kind of situation. But that's kind of where we're at celestially with that particular arrangement of those planets and with the information coming from this particular glyph. Yeah.
And I really love that. This is like a really prime example of combining divination and then finding those connection and divination into like other studies like magic and astrology and pinpointing creative solutions for maybe a message that would otherwise, you could draw, this glyph and call it a day and just say, oh, it's going to be a shitty week. It's going to be hard. But to dig into it and find the gem of being able to harness your dreams right now in order to get an answer in about a week and a half, that is very specific and it's very practical in my opinion. And record your dreams. I don't know, I just like it.
Do it. Just do it. Just record your dreams.
Even if you just wake up, because what do they say? Like as soon as you move your head, like the first 3 seconds when you wake up, you move your head and you forget like 50% of your dreams.
Yeah.
It's like even if you just reach for your voice recorder
Mhm.
and just blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
you know, like, and then you can write it down later.
That would
They
have
have
for me.
those-
I put tape on my mouth.
They have those apps now. Like I've talked with a couple people where they have those sleep recording apps
Yeah,
where they'll even record you at night. And I've talked with a few people that are like
I have that.
where it'll record them and and they're talking in their sleep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool because you can actually get recordings of how you're vocalizing your dreams.
Mhm.
It's kind of cool. I've always wanted to try one of those, but
It's
it would
freaky.
just be like probably several hours of me farting in my sleep. But
There's it
yeah.
catches lots of farts.
Yeah,
It catches a lot of
yeah, probably a lot of that too. Yeah.
and kitty noises.
Yes. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, you speak in tongues in your sleep, so
Do I?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Like it's totally like little Nicky over here.
Well, if you can think of
your heart.
you can think of a better way to open the ninth gate of hell, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah.
There is no better way. There is no better way to open up the ninth gate of hell, my love.
And if I do it in my sleep, I have plausible deniability.
Exactly.
There you
See,
go.
I'm sure I talk in my sleep, but not really anymore because I got this pat on my nose, and then I also have like this hush tape over
Oh,
my
so it
mouth.
forces you to use
So it
the
forces me to,
breathing.
yeah.
I
so
really like the hush tape. Like I think you should sometimes wear that when you're not sleeping.
Most of them have Virgo moons and they're mutable signs, by the way.
why?
Mutable sun.
Why
Virgo
are you
moons.
being so mean to me?
Am I
It's
being
part of
mean?
the gimmick, I think.
It's true. Yeah.
Um,
I would agree though. Sometimes I do just need to put hush tape on my mouth.
you know.
Mia, so what do you have for us astrologically?
So astrologically, I really just enjoyed hearing like understanding that the geocentric magical model is actually used in a form of like actually calculating astrology, which I wasn't aware of prior to this conversation, really. I think I'd heard you talk about planetary calculations at different times before, but I never understood there is a whole different um calculation of astrology to the geocentric model, and I think it's really enticing just based on like ceremonial magicians out there.
Yeah,
I think you would, because you go through the realm of Earth and then you go through, the gates of each of the planets, and it was just typical. But
Yeah.
I would concur, even just like, pulling this Puer is so of the moment. Today is September 10th. We have Mars already a couple degrees into Cancer, and it will pass through Cancer entirely until it begins its retrograde in December. Now, before retrogrades happen, the planet already kind of slows down, so you kind of always feel, like electronics might go funky, but Mercury hasn't gone in retrograde yet. It's probably during like what's called a shadow period of when it's like slowing down and getting ready to enter retrograde. So the reason why I wanted to focus on this is because emotions are going to be high in not only because of the geopolitical, I think that's the word I'm looking for, like the current like where everyone is standing. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot that everyone is fighting for, and that they're believing that they're fighting for, and there's a lot going around all over the world, and we're all feeling the stakes incredibly high. Now, that is going to naturally, even if you don't believe in astrology, you could just say, well, politics wise, yes, duh. But if you understand astrology outside of what's going on, it's adding gasoline to the fire. In my opinion, having Mars not super happy hanging out in Cancer, it's forcing us to refine our, especially while the sun is in Virgo and having this aspect, Cancer and Virgo get along well. They're best friends. They're sextile, so I call them friends. And so how can we use this like overly hormonal feeling time of like with our creative angst and everything literally you are talking about is just so Mars and Cancer and how to make it work. How do we then allow ourselves to transmute into a stoic, like what is our poise? What is our poise? What is our stoicism? You know, how are we going to present when there's an emotional flurry going on, but we know work still needs to be done because Virgo is all about sacred duty. That that jumps over into the next aspect that is going to be a big theme of this month, which is the sun is going to be squaring Jupiter, and that is exact on, I apologize, that is exact on the 12th. So in 2 days, September 12th, the sun, so we're already going to be feeling the effects of it. The sun
So
being,
it's squaring Jupiter on Jupiter's day.
oh yeah,
Thursday.
that is a Thursday.
Yeah.
So then that would encourage, and then Jupiter is in the planet of, or sorry, Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, which that's my natal. So I'm going through a Jupiter return. That's my natal, one of my natal placements. This is, think about the axis of Gemini as you know, what how can we make this more like expansive and playful and like going from here to here, and we don't want to get too locked down in this or that. That is also kind of agreeing with Jupiter in this square to kind of, it's being an ambush energy with the sun. The sun wants to shine. How does the sun want to shine right now? In Virgo, sacred duty. So there's a thing of, I don't, almost feeling like I don't know what I want to do. I want to do something, but I'm not sure how to, organize it. And so I think being aware of your emotional landscape and like recording your dreams, making sure that you're making friends with your subconscious right now is going to be the best way to make that ambush between Jupiter and the sun useful, because the sun is beautiful. Jupiter is happy, what do you say, Daddy Warbucks, he's the happy dad, he's, Hesed on the tree of life, he's Zeus, if Zeus, wasn't such a dick. But in this case, it can be his dickish side. So this can be trickstery. Like what we want to expand may be tricky, what we want to expand is fighting for what we want, fighting with what we want to be known for and our reputation and all of that. So check your your personal native Jupiter and solar placements. And if you have a lot of mutable signs in your chart, if you run on a lot of mutable, this is going to be more impactful for you. If you're on the other axis where you're like, Sag and, Pisces placements, you might be feeling more, frustrated about this expansion. Maybe you thought that you had something figured out, and this is making you question that. Whereas the axis, not the axis, but the square, the 90-degree point of Gemini and Virgo is very much like, no, it just turned up real loud. It's just turned up real loud. And then how do we make poise with it? So I think we can lean into the discomfort of Mars in Cancer, and also Mercury being in Virgo is going to allow us to, if we sit down for 5 seconds, count to 10, feel your feelings, and get it out. This is a great time for journaling because of that. We're in a mercurial sign. This headbutt between the sun and Jupiter is in both mercurial signs. So it's just like which way do you want to go? Do you want to focus more on how you can play more? Do you need more play, or do you need more getting down to the brass tacks? And this whole combination, I think, can help in either decision that you guys want to go. Although in the Battle of the Planets on that exact day, on September 12th, I would say things are leaning more towards giving the sun the wind, so Virgo the wind of, practicalities and dimming down fun, but you can't throw that baby out with the bathwater. So it's all about boundary learning and stuff. So that was kind of the main thing that I can stand to hear myself ramble on. There are plenty of other transits through the month. Like, we could do a whole podcast just on transits through the month, but
That would be fun,
there's
actually. Maybe we should set that up at some point. Maybe we should do an episode on
yeah,
that.
we could do like marked like interesting transits, but like, if you want to get that, there's some really great astrologers already doing that. I just think I look at the ones that point out when I'm animating my little AstroGold app, and I'm like, oh, that one looks loud. That one, and I kind of, having a divination heart, my heart is based in divination. I kind of just look at the rotation until one goes, oh, let's zoom in on that. And so I admittedly don't have like the mathematical mind of looking at transits so much. But yeah, I think it interplays with Puer being able to turn this into a useful sword instead of letting it melt away into, water that is just, there. So yeah.
I like it. So, we'll talk about some other things and just do our normal stuff. I will close the podcast out with our meditation
Okay.
this go around, because all this has given me some really great ideas, but doing that right now is
That would be kind of an odd kind
it
of.
would be odd.
Yeah.
Yes, it'd be like
It's like a
we're going to
almost
take
like
an intermission.
Yes,
but
it'd be
not
like
really.
an intermission, but then it'd be like we're gonna get you nice and relaxed, and then we're gonna bring you back to all fired up and pissy again.
I did forget to mention, I mean, it's
Damn it, Mia.
I'm sorry, it's all
Sorry, I
they're
see
Scared the cats.
they're fine. They
Luna was like, I'm done. Bye.
It's everywhere already. We know that we are entering into eclipse season. And that is there was something I had written down for September 19th, and now I'm looking at the chart and I don't remember what it was. I don't know if that's when I was saying that's when the moon goes opposite Venus. There's some kind of shit. There's an eclipse season that starts this
Doesn't start the
month
full moon.
on this full moon. Thank you. Well, I'm just nervous. But I know, it's the full moon, but for some reason, no, it's the 17th. The 17th moon, 29 degrees in Pisces, 25 degree sun. I'm not doing exact time. So on September 17th is a partial lunar eclipse. And then that's going to begin, the next what is it, like 3 or 4 months of eclipse trading. Eclipse trading. But this one will be on that axis of Pisces and Virgo, which is the practical and the dream, the what you have faith in and what you can quantify, and how do you make friends with those things within yourself. How do you honor both of those things? So that's definitely like a really beautiful thing that could be done. I'm not of the tradition of believing that you should start or have any spell workings or magical workings end or begin exactly on uh like right on the day of eclipses, because it can lend to your results becoming
Unpredictable.
more unpredictable, and you tend to, there's usually some more cleanup that you have to do. So not to fearmonger, but I would just, keep an eye on that, especially with what Mars is doing and everything. It's like kind of saying like play nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was all. It was September. I had something for the 19th, but it's September 17th.
Didn't you say something earlier, like something about the nodes?
Well, the nodes are changing.
They're flipping, aren't they?
They're flipping. That's not for a while.
Oh no, okay, gotcha. Okay. I just remember we
oh,
were
wait.
talking about that.
I don't do
also.
astrology.
That's at the end. Oh, is it? That's at the end of this month. They start going not backwards. They're looking like. I have to do some more
That's okay.
research.
Well, we'll have another episode before that.
That's okay.
Sorry.
On top of that,
Okay, but yeah,
I can always just record you going on about them and then post them.
like when we're just having our Monday conversation.
Yeah. Hey, why not?
Me and I are both in the shop on Mondays, and we tend to just boom, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Just ask each other random questions and go on tangents.
It's good.
Great.
I've actually, I think we have so many people contact us who are like inquiring about like mentorships and
Mia,
you can rest your foot on my knee. You're
you
good.
can.
Yeah.
We're literally so in love with you.
I'm in love with you. You're my best replacement brothers ever.
You're my best.
You're my best friend, my best friend family ever.
Oh,
I don't know what I do without you.
y'all are gonna give me the beatus over here.
I hope so.
Okay.
But not diabetes, just the beatus, right?
Just the beatus, not the
Okay.
diet.
The beatus.
Just the beatus.
Anyway, but we have so many people contact us who are like, oh, I'm inquiring about mentorship. I really want to learn, and they're looking for kind of more like, and we're always like, oh, we teach classes and things, and they're like, oh, well, I like classes, but I was kind of looking for kind of more of that personal connection,
One-on-one.
and it just occurred to me that like if we could work out a way to just let those people come in and like just hang out with us here in the shop on like a Monday where just you and Mia are in the shop.
It's
Or on,
usually
like, a
quieter for
Wednesday.
readings on Mondays.
Yeah.
See, you say that, and then
Yeah, but then
Oh, but
every
this
single
last-
time, every single time,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, it's Monday, it's gonna be okay, and then it's like, oh, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna order groceries.
Yeah, exactly. Or there are other days too where like sometimes like on a rare occasion Austin and I'll be in the shop, like usually typically on a Tuesday or something.
When Mike and I
Yeah.
have,
If you guys don't mind like hanging out and there's, we'll have a busy time and we won't be able to pay attention to you, but we
Well,
have those moments.
I don't know under what circumstances we would actually be able to facilitate this.
Yeah, I
with
don't-
it, but it just occurred to me. I was like, oh my God, this is kind of what these people would be after. I'm thinking like
Yeah.
this is what they want. They want like fun friend time, hangout time in the store where
Yes.
they can sit and be a part of those conversations or eavesdrop on those kinds of conversations that we
Mhm.
have here.
really
but
the
I don't
best
know
place
how we would do that.
The best place to get that is on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. with the divination study group.
That's true.
Honestly.
That's
Because the
true.
divination study group, you guys don't just, I mean, you'll sit and you'll do reads, but like we kind of took and combined the divination study group, mediumship development group, and then like the spiritual learning circle, and just kind of like put them all in one.
Yeah.
And I'm not ever in those, so you won't have to deal with me.
How refreshing. Oh, God.
It's true. I
But,
get
like,
exhausted myself all the time.
Like Mike and I will kind of start with a framework with those Wednesdays, but really you guys that come in can steer us like with
Mhm.
your questions.
Yes.
We can cater, we can pivot, because we just kind of assume, okay, we're gonna start with a baseline thing in case nobody knows anything about anything.
Mhm.
That's where we go off of. But if we see the people who show up know, more of over here and they're wanting to lean into that, we can meet you there. But we start more beginner friendly,
Mhm.
and more kind of just centered around, that this divination. It's playtime, which it should be, but we're definitely able to pivot that.
Yeah. So I don't even know how long we've been going on. Probably been about.
Did you have something you wanted to talk about?
I just, our normal just kind of like shooting the shit. I have noticed that so I joined the threads, which has been interesting to say the least.
I think
X in the trash.
Mia got us kind of on the threads.
And
trend letter.
And I have noticed that there has been two huge things that I've noticed on threads. First of which is that there are people who are upset and disappointed over social media influencer witches or witch fluencers. And all I can say is, if you're disappointed in that, you need to pick up a book. You need to go to a class. I understand that,
Become the influencer you want to be.
Okay, can you
explain?
I was on threads when someone was like upset that this witch fluencer had like 144K followers and people who like they hung out with and or like talked about, and this witch fluencer just kept backtracking and not providing good information and claiming all these false things. And
so were they just putting like pictures of like, here's my witchy life or something?
Yeah. And if you are a witch fluencer and you listen to the podcast or watch the podcast, I want to say, one, thank you for your contribution of bringing witchcraft, magic, and the mystical up to the forefront of the 21st century and making it available at the tip of our fingers. But I'm also going to say, can you please stop thinking that you're the be all end all of information?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more. There are people, authors, professional practitioners and witches out there, magicians, root workers, whatever path you follow, who have been doing this for years and years and years and years. And no, they might not be ancient. And no, they might not have the most expensive palette of makeup that they wear. And no, they might not know how to do the fun little video edits, but they have wisdom and they have knowledge. And so for those of you who are getting a little bit upset or irritated or losing the drive for your magical practice because how you got started was with social media, with witch fluencers, I encourage you, please go to your local shops. I get it. Some areas don't have local shops, and the local shops that you do have access to probably aren't your cup of tea. But that's going to be the easiest place for you to start. I'll be the first to admit that there are times where people I interact with, I'm like, you have how many spell jars? And you don't know what to do. What? And they're like, well, I found it on Pinterest. And I'm like, okay. And it didn't work. Well, what was in the jar? Well, you first layer a thing of salt, and I'm like,
I know you forgot you have to cleanse it with a stick of really cheap, like mass produced incense that you probably got from the dollar store. That's really just nothing but nasty chemicals.
Just all that stuff. And I get it. Sometimes those things aren't accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Totally
if
get
it's
it.
Ultimately you only have like a dollar store. Here's my dollar store frankincense. Like, we get it.
Yeah.
But where you're coming from with this is like
you should invest in yourself and in your craft.
Yeah.
If you're wanting
knowledge.
Exactly. And so I was listening to I had a session with my mentor, one of my mentors today. And one of the things that was brought up in a Q&A was, well, there's, you hear people talk about finding that magic button in magic, and then you'll get everything you want. You'll get everything you want, desire, and need.
Button doesn't exist.
And that's what my mentor said. That's what he said. He was like, that button doesn't exist. He's like, that button doesn't exist. And the
You can
reason
find formulas that work super well for a while, but then
Exactly.
you'll get bored with them.
Exactly. But also on top of that, that's not how magic works. Magic, witchcraft, mysticism is not here to make you a multimillionaire. It's not here or accessible to us to create profound change that just can move mountains.
It's not evangelist.
Yeah, it's there and it's a tool, but that tool is worked by you. You have to pick up the thing and do the thing. And this idea that following a witchfluencer who will give you all the answers.
It's almost like a new guru.
Yeah,
like the 90s guru.
Yeah, it's going from the 90s guru
or the 2000s.
Or the 2000s guru and going into the same thing, you know? And I feel you. I understand that you're struggling and you want more, and you might feel that you have become stagnant in your practice. And tying it in to everything that we talked about astrologically, most definitely you can feel that frustration. So instead of investing in another Patreon that will promise you something, not that Patreon's bad,
right?
You know,
but no, people they can get addicted.
They can get addicted to Patreon, just like they can get addicted to all these other things.
Yeah.
Instead of finding out the cheapest way to do your craft, instead plan, you know. And I get it. That's a total Virgo thing. I am not a Virgo. I do have a Virgo rising and a Virgo moon though. But you got to plan a little, which means if you're really wanting a prosperity spell to pop off and you don't want to actually invest in that condition oil for prosperity, you don't want to actually invest in the roots or the herbs needed for that spell, you don't want to invest in spending the time figuring out the planetary hours, and you don't want to invest in that. You want it then, you want it now. Witchcraft, magic, and mysticism is not for you, and that's okay.
It's like playing a scratch it.
Exactly. At that point, book a consultation with a professional worker and see what they can do for you. I have seen.
You don't have to be in it alone and expect yourself and get all high and like it's almost like a domino effect of people having this mentality of like, I read this one book and so I know everything and I'm going to exert dominance on social media over everyone getting in here. And then those people are like, okay, well, I know. And then they'll just watch like a little, like it's just, and they just park their knowledge at like one thing, and then it gets spread and it gets to Pinterest, and then people are like, well, what's this easy fix? And then it's like not having a basis of like, no, this is a life path, this is an investment of time. I don't remember where I was going, but I was very passionate. I felt it.
No, I get it. I get it. Well, so let's just think of it this way. There's plenty of witchfluencers out there who are like, oh, well, I'm a death witch.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
What is that?
Okay, but you have 200K followers. So you're obviously not a death witch. You're a glamour witch. You're using glamour to attract these things to you. So you need to understand, as a new witch, as an older witch, as someone who thumbs through the TikToks and the Instagrams and the threads and sees all these beautiful, intricate things, that's glamour, that's glitz, that's shine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Right. I will jizz my jeans over a beautiful altar. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But the reality is that the looks aren't everything. Also, I saw someone dressing a candle really fucking weird, and it set my teeth on edge.
Do you think they knew, or were they going off of a
This was a witchfluencer.
Okay. So it's someone who read a book of a book or something.
Yes.
And they're like, this is how you do it.
Was dressing a 7-day jar candle.
Yeah.
An offering spell. I don't know how an offering spell is a thing. There's an offering and there's a spell.
Okay.
They were putting the herbs on the glass of the candle.
Oh, That's kind of cute though, because I've done that when I was like 15.
And I was like, this person was like, for more mentorships and questions,
Oh.
contact me. And I was like, you were putting herbs on that. Those herbs aren't even touching the what?
On top.
You put them on top. You put 3 holes in the top. You fill them. You load them. There are people out there, and I'm sure everyone's, well, it's the intention that matters. No, the intention doesn't fucking matter. If you're gonna make chocolate chip goddamn cookies, you need chocolate chips.
The intention does matter, but you can't just rely on the
Exactly. You know,
Don't think you're the shit if you're first like, oh, how do I dress this? And
yes.
you know, and it's like I figured it out. I'll dress the outside of it. It's like I love that. If you're just discovering, you're just playing around, you naturally tried to do that. That this is not a conversation to shame those of you who like me when I was a kid. It's like, well, I don't know how to dress this. I'll put it on the glass, you know, maybe glue that shit. I don't know. And like that's innocent, but it's like if you're like, no, this is like I am that bitch, and you do it exactly like this, and it's you haven't read
They also- They also loaded the candle with Florida water, which is flammable, and then cut
There's
to
lots of fire hazards.
yes, and then cut
Yeah.
to a pillar of fire going, look at how powerful I am. And I'm just like, you're not powerful. You're a menace to the fucking fire department is what you are.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
I think it comes down to audacity.
I don't even think it comes down to audacity.
Mm.
I think it comes down to they want likes, they want shares, and they honestly just don't have a critical thinking cell in their fucking brain.
But they are
Mia's trying to be positive.
They critically think enough to know that they're going to get those clicks and they're going to be influencing these, 10 to 18-year-olds just getting into magic. And then they end up corrupting those kids. And then they come in like, oh, I know how to do this. I learned from this mystical person on Patreon and then they're very doing something weird, like putting salt on a money jar.
Well, you're talking about influencers, and I think that influencers of any kind,
Yeah.
and I won't say
Oh, yeah.
all influencers, but I think influencers of
In those
any
realms, though.
kind
Mhm.
within social media, the internet influencers, these kinds of things. I'm again, and I'm going to have a like not all influencers kind of moment here, but I would say
if it doesn't fit you, then it's not for you.
Exactly. You know, like we have friends who are witch influencers,
Yes, but
like this, who are lovely people.
Yes, but the difference
there
is-
are many of others out there who I think, and what I want to say is that there are a lot of witch influencers out there that are, we know influencers online
Mhm.
by and large tend to be highly problematic people.
Yes.
Okay. And
And
even if they go in with good intent, in order to continue to be an influencer, you have to sell your soul at some point.
You have to make the clickbaity titles.
It's a slippery slope, but over time, those people they give away their integrity. They sell little pieces of their ethics. They have to, because every time they sit down to create content for their followers, there's always that thought in the back of their head, like, do I want to give them something real today? This is assuming that they are really what they claim to be, right? Am I going to give them something real today, right? And then second thought is, will that get the clicks I want it to get?
Yeah.
And thus the
And
will
that becomes a filter.
Exactly. Will that get me the additional followers? Will that get me the sponsorships? Will that get me the money ultimately that I want by maintaining this online presence?
Exactly. Which
and that's what I mean when I say that they typically prove to be problematic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
because they're
it just frustrates me, because you got people out there who are hawking the fucking cord cutting spells like they're goddamn.
I don't know why that one just won't.
It won't die. It won't die because at this point, if I'm being honest, I think at this point it has become an egregore in and of itself.
Yeah.
I feel that
it's like because like I've seen ones where like I'm like, oh, this person's really putting like a lot of heart into this. And then they get these like scissors and they're like, no, I'm gonna cut that bitch. And I'm like, you know what? Like on a Jungian level, like good for you.
Yeah.
I don't know where this comes from,
Mhm.
like from traditional magic or whatever, but like, good for you. Like it's not, I don't know where the fuck it came from.
Yeah.
Other than maybe chewing and biting off of uh not working spells.
Well, so
And
here's
I
the
don't
only
know.
way I can figure out where it came from. Cord, 2 candles, tie them together, light it on fire. Like I can see the logistics there. I
Right.
really can. I can see the
Like a homemade,
like
someone
all
made that spell up. They're like, no, here's what I want you to do. And it's like they did a DIY like consultation for
yeah.
someone. And they
And
were having them do it.
and I can
Right.
see where the thought process went, but it's blown up to such a radical proportion that like all I'm hearing about and all people are wanting are cord cuttings, return to cinders, cord cuttings, return to cinders, cord cutting, return to cinders. On occasion, they'll ask about egg clearings. But here's the thing, they're doing an egg cleansing or an egg clearing and then posting about it with the picture online, asking for other people's inputs.
Yeah, you should not be sharing that.
Thinking, oh, the person who maybe did this to me could potentially see this.
How long have you guys noticed this trend of people sharing their spell workings online? Has that been just a TikTok thing? Because I always
It really
my
blew up with
practice was
TikTok.
only like I kept it hidden and
Yeah.
myself, so I wasn't really paying
Keep it secret,
attention to
keep it secret.
just and so I wasn't really paying attention until over the last like 2.5 years of like, oh no, people are like, hey, what do you guys think about this evil eye cleansing? And it's like it seems counterintuitive for some workings to be shown for the masses.
Yes. Well, I agree with that 100%, but it really did kick off with TikTok. Instagram had a little bit, Facebook not so much. Facebook, you'll see like pictures on occasion, but that's where it really started. I actually know, I want to say that it started on YouTube, but YouTube started with tutorials, like
Yeah.
how to do this spell.
Yeah.
Using an example of like Hoodoo Delish, Miss
Yeah.
AV, she would do tutorials on how to do it, and she was actually doing the work for a client, but she would omit the name. So I can see where that's going. But yeah, so that's just
But it's become a thing where people do these 30-second ones and they
Yeah.
try to one up to make one the more
yeah,
fire
either one
hazard.
up or and that's what it is. They're all fire hazards. They're all fire hazards.
All right, bump the table.
And so I get that. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit now, and I don't mean to
Maybe
be.
a bit. Since you brought these things up, though, I want to kind of talk about these things because I can see, looking at a couple of things that you have mentioned here from the perspective of a chaos magician.
Mhm.
Okay, I can see falling back on something like the fact that the cord cutting spell with the 2 candles tied together. I can absolutely see that as something now because it's kind of in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see as a chaos magician saying, I'm going to do this spell, not because I personally I personally would be like, that's a bullshit spell. I would never normally do that. But now because there are so many people who have latched onto the idea,
Mhm.
I'd be like, I'm going to tap into everyone else's belief that
Yeah.
this bullshit's
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to use to power my spell.
Yeah.
Right. But even then, you have to look a bit further. And that would be where this would be the message to our saltines is the one thing that I've seen in that spell as it is depicted online in different forums again and again and again, is that people, even if they're doing that spell, you're still and that spell were to function in the way you wanted it to, you're still not doing the spell properly. Because you're taking 2 candles and a piece of string and you're tying candles together with string and you're setting candles on plates and you're lighting candles. I won't say ever, but I would say 99.9% of the time, I never see any discussion or any example made around needing to charge those candles, to name those candles for who they are
Yeah.
representing, right? It's like you just take a candle off a shelf and go, this candle represents them, this candle represents me. And it's like, okay, but how does this candle represent them? You've done nothing to put the energy of that person into that candle. That's just a candle.
Yeah.
That's just a candle.
It's intention.
You know, how does this candle represent you? You've done nothing to put
Well, they
yourself
get
into this
scared
candle.
about
You know,
naming and stuff.
it's not only that, but that cord that you're going to use, what have you done to charge that cord with anything that it would then be a viable sympathetic representation of the connection that you are trying to sever?
Yeah.
Right. Beyond that, why in the fuck would you want to use fire to sever that connection when fire is used primarily to transmute
Yeah, that's not
and
good.
is just
Got it.
as effective, in addition to transmuting or changing things, is just as effective at rekindling energy and bringing new life to situations. Why would fire be your chosen medium? And I absolutely understand that fire can be destructive in nature, but if your intent
Also used to
isn't
cook.
rock solid around, like if you have even just a moment of doubt in what you are doing, that energy, that fire is going to be like, oh, you know, the spirit, the animistic spirit of that flame is going to be like, oh, I sense doubt in your heart. Maybe I'm not actually meant to destroy this connection. Maybe the purpose is just to change it.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe instead you actually wanted a rekindling of this energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
you
I did.
can't know how. You can't know how those spirits will interpret the work that you're doing unless you are firmly resolved, unless you are absolutely sure, unless you really know what you are doing, and unless you have charged those items effectively, unless you have named them as such. Right. And that's the thing that I don't see people doing with that working. So either way, it's a waste of a spell. You know, so there is that. You know,
What are your thoughts about like co-opting, like, or not, I don't know if what's the right word. Like if you, there are like laws of the universe and how laws of how magic work and stuff. And if you're not commanding a thing to be the thing, and you're just like, this is something I saw and this is going to help me, I'm just going to go through the motions and do it. Someone who does practice magic, or maybe someone who is friends with the person you're wanting to sever ties with, will see then that little video you made, they can sense a lack of will charging it. They would then be able to do it whatever they want to do with it. It's essentially you're leaving yourself to leak magic.
Yes,
you are not charging and doing these proper things that Mike is talking about, that we know, like, because if you have other magical practitioners around, there might be like a oh, I sense this is accidentally just here and you meant it to be the spell. Well, I'm going to touch it and I'm going to put my imprint on it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah,
if all of y'all are going to start be practicing magic, you need to be charging more of your will into your workings.
Yes, which includes your Voce Magicae, which is your voice.
Your voice.
You don't just sit and go.
Yeah, you got to put your body and your voice into that shit, and your breath. And yeah, maybe even your spit and your blood. And
I'm sure there's going to be people out there who are like, well, who are you to tell someone how they're supposed to practice and
you
do
know
their
that shit.
spell?
Okay, I'm just going to say right now, do you want to know? Do you want to know? Do you want to know who I am? And I won't speak for these other two lovely people, but you want to know who I am to tell people how to do their spells and how to do their magic work? I am a 30+ year practicing magician / witch / occultist who gets results with a lot of his fucking spell work. And that's who I am to fucking tell you how to do your spells.
Yeah. Results.
Because I have conversations with a lot of people in person and online, like, I did this spell and it didn't work. I did this spell and it didn't work. Why don't my spells work? Why don't my spells work? Why don't my spells work? And then in the process of that conversation, right? And I'll admit, every one of my spells hasn't worked.
Usually the ones where you're
but
probably feeling rough.
but I'm idling. I would say in my spell work, I can honestly say, and I am in no way trying to sound like an arrogant piece of shit when I say this, because that's not who I am, and these two people will vouch. I am not that person.
No.
But
Anyone who practices
I'm
magic gets that.
idling at about 90% success rate for my spells, because I know my shit and I do the hard work.
It's work.
And
That's why it's called spell
And so
work.
that's who I am,
Not
to tell
spell
you
nosy.
how to do your spells and how you should effectively do your spells. And ultimately, yes, the goal is always the result.
Yes.
If you are doing something, even if it's something different than what I tell you to do, as long as you're getting results, amazing.
Good for you.
Because that's all that fucking matters.
Yes.
Right. But if you've got someone like us that is like, hey, I'm a really effective magician, I'm a really effective witch, I'm a really effective whatever, and I'm long-term practiced, I'm very well studied, I'm knowledgeable, I teach, I mentor, I'm initiated, like, and I'm telling you, like, there are better ways. Don't have an ego moment. Don't get arrogant and turn around and go, well, who the hell are you to tell me? Because right there in that moment, you lose. You lose in that moment.
Mhm.
Because in that moment, you had a chance to connect and to work with somebody who could have helped you take your practice
And was willing
to help you take your practice leaps and bounds ahead of where it was. And in that moment, by doing that, by responding in that way, you've then told that person, like, oh, wow, okay, you're not ready yet. You can't be trusted with the knowledge that I might potentially have to share with you.
That's very like high priestess vibes. That's very like I will show you behind the curtain, but like, have you read the have you studied the thing?
Yeah.
And the arrogant magician will storm right in. Where do you end up? You end up on the other side of the high priestess, which is the moon card, is the abyss. If you don't know how to navigate that, you will end up with spiritual psychosis or something else. You have to start as the fool. You dive off the cliff fully trusting that the information you need and want will appear for you. Then you meet your first teacher, the magician. Then you become the magician. Then you meet your second teacher, the high priestess. You can't just be skipping the fool part and going right into, I'm the fucking magician and I'm gonna storm through this bitch. And it's like, okay, you're cruising for a bruising. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think one other thing, I know I keep cutting you off, but one other thing that I wanted to say before I shut up on all that, on what you were bringing up is, and this is advice, this is something I do, but this is also advice I would have for our saltines, particularly, again, kind of focusing that line of conversation back to which influencers on social media,
which
and on the internet.
Influencer.
I can't say that. It just sounds weird. Which fluencer? That just sounds weird. Which influencers on social media, on the internet is. I watch those videos because I'm not immune to the internet. I'm on the internet like anybody else, and I get into social media and TikTok and YouTube and Threads now and other places. I get into all those things, and I see these videos, I see these things, and I'll admit, when I watch these things, when I see these things, and I don't seek them out, but they do pop up on my feeds. When I see these things, and I see people sharing spells, I see people doing, little videos on how-tos for spells and things, right? I watch those, but I'm at a point where I watch those primarily, and I view those less as I'm learning how to do a spell, and more from I'm watching a performance piece, or I'm watching this person's art.
Yeah.
Right. And let me clarify. I'm not trying to be a dick when I say that. I'm not trying to imply that person is not.
Turning off your.
I'm not. I'm not trying to imply that person is not working effective magic. I'm not trying to say that at all. Okay, because I don't know that person. And I don't know, and I don't know what they're getting. After watching a 30-second clip of a video that they've shared, I don't know what came of that spell. Like that could have been an awesome spell, and they got exactly what they wanted from that. So it's not about judgment. In that moment, but I'm watching that because for me, it's like I'm watching a performance piece. I'm watching a tiny slice of this person's life that they chose to share with the world, right? This could just as easily been a video of this person brushing their teeth, right? And I do that primarily because, again, I ultimately will never know what came of that, right? Because they most often don't share that,
Mhm.
right? Two, and this is the advice I really have for all of our saltines is even the most the spells that you see shared online, even a spell that say like God, even I if I were to share a spell with you online, right? I could do a spell 1,000 times and have that spell crack off exactly as I needed it to, and give me exactly the result that I needed it to, right? And in my head, be like, oh God, the spell is foolproof. The spell is there's no way this one can fail. This is the perfect spell every time, success every time, success. That still doesn't mean that spell will ever work for you.
Because you have different magician's tools.
Exactly. Your energy is different. Your soul is different. Your life is different.
Which is
your
why-
spirits are different. Your initiations into whatever tradition you may be a part of are different. You know, and so my advice to to you, our saltines, is that these people who are online that are like, do this spell, it's amazing, it's going to work. No, even spells that have been around for centuries, spells like the Abra Melon Rite and shit like that, where they're like, this is such a famous spell, and everybody that does this has this amazing thing happen. Like there is never a guarantee that that spell is going to work for you. The one
Or
spell
it might manifest on its own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So every spell is not always going to work the same for everybody, and what works really, really well for me may not work for anyone else.
I do fall into the trap of where I'm like, I get really excited once I've like discovered like what appears to be like a formula for something. And I'm
Well, I
like,
think that's
oh,
natural.
it's got it,
Yeah, I think that's
I
normal.
definitely fall into that trap.
Well, that's something to remember, and that brings us back to the root of magic and witchcraft, which is knowing yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you know yourself, you're going to know what is going to jive with you and your spirits.
You love frankincense.
I love frankincense.
I love, and dragon's blood works similar to how frankincense would work.
Yeah, I can get frankincense and I are best friends.
Yeah, like frankincense
Banishment.
different.
I can burn you out with it. I can heal. Like frankincense and I.
Dragon's blood does that for me. It's like I talk with it different, but I've seen it work different for other people. So you have to figure out
know yourself.
your
It's the pyramid, right? To know, to will, to dare, to shop.
Silence.
Oh, is that the fourth point?
The fourth, yes.
To shop.
Is shop not on there?
No.
Oh.
To know, to will, to dare, to shop.
I've been doing it wrong all these years. That explains a lot.
So
that debt. Oh God.
So what we're gonna do, I think that was a good conversation, and because it kind of centered around certain things, the meditation I'm going to take us through is going to be cool, I think. So
will you think?
Knowing ourselves.
It's not that. So the purpose of this meditation is to help you find calm in the midst of an emotional storm. Half the time when we are getting overwhelmed or overstimulated with emotions, and especially if we're dealing with other people, we are feeding. It's almost like we create like an echo chamber within ourselves. And so we're projecting, and that person's picking up a projection, and they're like, whoa. And so they project, and it just creates this nasty cycle. So what I want everyone to do is put your feet on the floor.
Should we dim the lights a bit?
Dim the lights.
Let me dim the lights a bit.
We'll and let the floor show.
Set the scene. Actually, I just want to show up my rockin' booty.
Oh my God. This is going on YouTube.
Is it?
Yeah.
You can say booty.
Well, my nobody saw anything. It's not like I actually flashed my butt.
Sure. Okay. All right. We will dim the lights.
Oh, I really didn't make much difference.
No, it didn't, because that ring light's
super bright.
It's like having a miniature sun.
Oh, you know what? I have an idea. Hold on.
Oh,
I mean, I could just unplug it.
Don't what?
But no, I was like, I'm wearing the leggings.
Oh.
Here,
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Like a nice calm, or wait.
Oh.
Maybe a green.
Mm-mm.
Let's see.
That one. I like that one.
The blue.
Okay.
Yes, even though it makes us look green.
Where's
And
green?
it matches the
There
Puer
we go. Yes.
and Mars and Cancer vibes. The blue, well, we do look green, but it looks good.
So,
Okay.
put your feet on the ground, and what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes, and we're gonna obviously start with breathing. Okay, in the midst of these emotionally, the emotional storms, you want to make sure you're breathing. Check in, breathe in, and out. Breath is so important for us. It helps us maintain equilibrium. It helps us maintain focus, and it helps us clear our thoughts.
And breathe all the way into the belly.
Into the
That
belly,
Cancerian womb.
in the lower lungs, and out. This is going to be a good meditation to do before you start your day or when you end your day. So as you're sitting there and your eyes are closed, just continue to focus on your breath. Bring yourself to your center, to your heart. Now I am going to use visualizations for those of you who cannot visualize or struggle with it. Do your best, but there are also going to be movements. I want you to visualize a beam of electric blue light, like a laser, shooting down from the highest heavens and then into your heart, down through your head and into your heart. For those of you who have a hard time visualizing, take your hand, your dominant hand, so your right or your left, and pull that energy down. And then center at the heart. Bring your left hand or your non-dominant hand to meet, and then split that light down both arms. With each breath, see yourself glowing brightly. Feel yourself creating static, a charge. Let this light illuminate superfluous energetic cords and tethers. And let this light move out through those cords and tethers gently. You can say under your breath or out loud or intone it. Power attracts power. And I call my power back. I call it back to the pool of power within me. Take a few seconds. And on that inhale, we pull that power back. And on that exhale, we send clean, refreshing energy out through those tethers. Remembering that this is not our power we are sending out. This is power from the highest heavens. This is power from chaos, the void, the stars, God, goddess, whatever that is for you. Now envision Puer, a sphere of light In your right shoulder, a sphere of light. In your right, sphere of light at your heart, just below the rib cage. Sphere of light in the head, the witch's eye, and then a sphere of light above. And let this energy connect them, creating a very makeshift version of a sword. We are going to charge that with our breath. With your hands, once it's charged, you're going to grab that sword and pull it out in front of you. And you're going to say, I activate the glyph of Puer, the sword. And with its blade, I cut all cords and all tethers, all contracts and assignments, and all assignments that have been given that do not serve me. Breathe into that sword and let it illuminate with fire. Celestial fire. Raise that sword and bring it down. Seeing it cut those ties and those cords. Not doing any harm, just releasing what no longer serves. Make sure you get behind your back. And then bring that sword back to the front, like you are Aragorn. Or Aragorn. Strider. When you stand with your sword in the midst of the emotional storm, prepared and ready, not just for battle, but for defense. Solidify that sword. Let it become as detailed as you want. It could be as beautiful, as rusty. Maybe it's the blade of the Witch King of Angmar. Who knows? And then take that sword back within you. Reaffirming the connection to the sky, letting that light come down, move through us into the ground, into the very depths of the underworld and beyond. Aligning us and creating a magnetic pull that ensures that our power always returns to us in trying times. I always like to end these things with a statement of affirmation. My power is my own and no one else's.
My power is my own and no one else's.
I can give it as freely as I take it.
I can give it as freely as I take it.
So it is.
So it is.
Reaffirming your breath. Connecting back to your body, checking in. Releasing your shoulders, because I know everyone's shoulders are up to their ears. Doing this exercise at the start of your day is going to help set you up to make sure that your energy is protected and that even at the end of the day, it comes back to you. Doing it at the end of the day is going to ensure that, you know, if you've interacted with any psychic vampires or anything like that, that you can cut off those tethers and call energy back. Remember, psychic vampires aren't awful. They're just people.
There's people
You know,
who usually don't know their energy.
and sometimes they can't, you know, they just are hemorrhaging life force. And that doesn't mean they need to take it all the time. So that's a really easy and simple exercise. You can tweak it and adjust it as you would like. One of my mentors actually would evoke Archangel Michael. Not that Archangel Michael would show up, but an egregore would. So other than that, tune in the next time we do this, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Happy witching.
Happy witching.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.